Welcome to this episode of the TelePT Connections podcast. I'm Daniel Seidler. Thank you for all your comments on LinkedIn, Twitter, and your podcast apps. They mean so much to us. Please continue to comment and be sure to subscribe to the podcast. This week, I'm joined by Jamey Schrier. Jamey is an author, former practice owner, and founder of Practice Freedom U. PFU solely focuses on helping practice owners work less, learn more, and reignite their passion for patient care. His book, The Practice Freedom Method, has been an Amazon bestseller. Jamey is on a mission to help ambitious practice owners achieve their dreams of what is commonly called practice freedom. We had a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy it too. Here we go.
Welcome to the TelePT Connection Podcast. Physical therapy information, innovation, and insights for patients and providers. Physical therapists and innovators Dan Seidler and Adrian Miranda will help you connect with your neuromusculoskeletal system, discussing how to care for every physical ailment they've ever seen or heard of, the latest digital health technology, and other fun stuff from their PT toolbox. Great guests, 21st century home remedies, exercise thumbs up or thumbs down. Now, here are your hosts, Dan and Adrian.
Hey, welcome to the TelePT Connections podcast. I'm Daniel Seidler, and my very special guest today is Jamey Schrier. Good to have you, Jamey.
Oh, thanks, Daniel. Appreciate you inviting me to be here.
Yeah, so things are going great for you. I hear. I know you have a book out. I know you're networking hard. You were a private practice owner.
Yes.
And You got out, I don't know actually how you exited your private practice. How'd that work for you?
I got out. I wasn't serving time, although in the beginning, I imagine we can appreciate that sometimes it feels like you're serving time.
Probably felt like it at times, yeah.
Yeah, you own a business. You start a business because at least the way I do it, the way I did it is, you have a passion for the industry. You have a passion for helping others, and you work for other people and you're like, I kind of do it this way and I kind of want to do that. I don't want to be told when I can take vacation or do this or do that. And you start your own. And, that's how I started my own. And that was all good, right? We call that in our Practice Freedom U business, we call that being a committed clinician, right? You're a clinician, but you're owning your own business, which really means that you own a job and you get some tax write-offs. But then you start to grow, which is what's supposed to happen. And then you start to hire other people. And I'll tell you, that's when sometimes it felt like maybe I was serving time a little bit, but I didn't get off for good behavior. The nicer I was to everybody, kind of sometimes the tougher it got and the more stuff that came on my plate, which I know we'll dive into some time management type of stuff. But anyways, I digress, which I often do. So.
Well, look, I say, and I know this is a Bob Dylan song, you got to serve somebody, and you're always serving somebody. And whether it's a boss or an employee or an insurance company, you're always serving somebody, right? So,
or your patient.
Exactly. I mean, that's part of it. As a practice owner myself, I wake up every morning and think of what I could do for my patients, of course, and my staff. And, that has to be the first thing you're thinking about as a practice owner, right?
Absolutely.
So how did your practice ownership end?
Well, it was a transition. I mean, the short of it, you mentioned the book, and the book's called The Practice Freedom Method.
Yep.
And the way it came about is when I began to transition from being that committed clinician, just self-employed me and, front desk person, started hiring people. And what I noticed is the more I started to hire other people, other therapists, other aides and administrative people, I realized that I didn't actually work less, which I thought was supposed to happen. I thought you hire someone and your hours get better, but that didn't happen. Actually, I worked more because I still had my caseload and all the stuff that goes with having patient care and documentation and everything else. But then I was kind of answering their questions and dealing with some of the issues they were having because I was never trained in school or any other place how to hire and train and monitor and metrics and systems. And HR, like I didn't know any of that.
Sure.
So I just realized I was just kind of going on the fly here, becoming extremely frustrated, stressed out. I mean, there were good times as well, but the busier I got, the more I realized, Daniel, this was not what I envisioned when I first opened my practice,
Yep.
what I wanted. And then kind of some freak thing happened that my place burned down. So there was a fire in my next to my suite, and my whole place burned down. This is like 3.5 years into it.
Yep.
So this was a time to kind of like, okay, either you're going to rebuild, and you're going to rebuild it the way you want, or you're going to quit. And I was at that level, like I was not happy.
Yeah.
And of course, I see you smiling. I went around smiling, telling everyone I was doing well, because you have to. Yeah. I mean, I got an ego, for goodness sake. You got to tell people you're doing well, because that's what everyone does. But I wasn't. I wasn't doing well, wasn't making the money to provide for my family that I thought I'd be making, working ridiculous hours, had a small child at the time, and my son, I wasn't there for a lot of their stuff. So I just made the commitment to learn about business. How do I do the business of physical therapy? So I spent the next 9 years with the good, the bad, and the ugly, like learning about this stuff, not how to treat people like clinically, but how to build a business that delivers great care, that is profitable, that's organized, that doesn't require me running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
Yep.
So
where'd you learn these things?
Oh, I took everything and anything. Most of where I learned this was outside of our industry.
Yep.
I was taught by people that were just experts in business, some of the big gurus out there, some of the small business coaches out there, but just people that, and I was kind of thick-headed. Self-guided. I had personal coaches. I had programs I followed. Yep. There wasn't much in the industry at the time. It was mostly done in other industries. Now you see, I mean, God, there's coaches everywhere, programs everywhere. It's becoming much more prevalent, which is fine, as long as it's good stuff. But there wasn't really much at the time. So I started learning, I started applying, right? You learn something, you apply it. And of course, I ruined it. Like I failed, and I kept learning and trying and failing.
Where were you applying it? You didn't still have your practice, did you?
No, that's what I mean. Yeah. I was using my practice as the example. I made the commitment to rebuild. I got a brand new suite after the fire.
Okay, you did it. Yeah.
So I wasn't going to give up.
But you were working on your business side.
I had to look in the mirror and say, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't understand how to really market.
That's a tough conversation to have, isn't it?
It was a tough one. Looking in the mirror and saying you're not as good as you think you are.
Yeah, sure.
Let's face it. I don't know how many failures you've had in the journey of being a physical therapist. Well, wait a minute. Being a physical therapist, I guarantee you didn't have too many, because you didn't get a lot of C's.
Right.
You got into school. You went to Columbia. You didn't have a lot of failures in that world to get to school. Business is the opposite.
That's right.
Business is all about failing. It's just trying to fail quickly and trying to move forward and not repeat the same mistake again and again. Yeah. It's a different mind shift. And it took me a while to get over that ability to allow myself to make mistakes and fail, learn from it, reapply. So I started to do things successfully. And I started to find out that, wow, if you actually put in some, policies and some systems in a certain way, things start to flow better. And if I manage my time better, which I know we'll get into, and if I market in a certain way, if I learn how to hire in a certain way and train people, like, if I understand my metrics and what key performance indicator, like this stuff every business has. Mm-hmm. So as I started to apply it, I realized I started working less hours, but my business continued to grow more. In other words, I was removing the biggest bottleneck of growth, which was myself. Yeah. So finally, I was at this mastermind in 2013. And a guy that I was sitting next to, I was kind of complaining, saying, I'm still not getting to the level I want to get. I want to kind of remove myself from the day-to-day and really oversee and manage a business. And he goes, well, what's preventing you from doing that? And I was like, well, I'm still treating like, a handful of people. He goes, why? I go, I don't know. I just can't let go of these people. There's like 6 people.
Yep.
And he goes, Jamey, it isn't about letting go of the 6 people. It's about mentally identifying yourself like, I'm a business owner. I own a business that delivers great physical therapy services, that employs a team, that mentors, that does all this. He goes, what are you really waiting for? And I was afraid of what would my staff think if I completely remove myself from patient care? What would referral sources, doctors who referred to me, would they judge me like, what are you doing? Like, I'm sending you people, you're not even there. Like, these were all stories in my head.
Sure.
And I finally went to my front desk person, Claudia. I said, go into the system and remove my name completely. So I can't even put somebody on there if I wanted to. Like, it had to be drafted.
That's how you got to do it, right?
And that year in 2013, that was January. That year, my business grew by 16%, and I took 137 days off. I mean, off, like no work whatsoever, because I tracked the whole thing.
Sure.
And I went, wow, this is really cool. Like, this is fun. And my staff was fantastic. They loved it. You know, I met with them every so often. We had our staff meetings and all that kind of good stuff. I played a role, just not the role in the clinic. So as that happened, this is kind of a long, short answer to your question. As that happened, I started to share my story. And one of the places I shared it initially was in a webinar, private practice section. And I called it something like what you can learn from McDonald's or something about your private practice, something like that. And I had a bunch of people reach out. Jamey, can you help me? And I went, and I didn't think about going into coaching. Like, this was just like, I was just sharing my story. Unsolicited.
Right.
I reached out and I said, sure, I guess. So I just started sharing with them what I did, what I learned, and they started applying it. They started having success. And then that led to more people reaching out. And I was like, well, I really like this. And I just felt like this was more in line with what I wanted to do and really expand and grow and try to transform an industry, because I know there's a lot of people suffering out there in business. So I said to myself, if someone approached me, I'm not going to actively try to sell my business, but if someone approached me with the right situation, then cool. Other than that, I'm going to run my business and I'm going to build this coaching thing. Eventually, a few years later, someone did approach me. It was the right terms. And I said, I want to go 100% in building this business, coaching, training, and really teaching our profession, private practice owners, how to successfully build and grow a business that provides you the lifestyle. When you sell it, you get the bigger multiple. It's the whole thing. So that's when the transition officially happened, although I was already doing it, 4 years.
But just like taking your name off the schedule, you flipped the switch and completely got out of the clinic, out of the practice.
Yeah. So, and what's interesting, Daniel, about that story, what's interesting about that story is I became the committed clinician again, because I was the person in a brand new industry. Now I'm in the coaching expertise industry.
Right.
No idea. I barely knew how to turn on a computer.
Right.
I don't know anything really about the internet. I know nothing about social media. I know how to build a clinic. So then I had to then learn how to build and grow this type of business. So it was exciting, but I mean, that'll be a story for another day on how not to grow a online coaching business, because I did the same thing. And I think it's part of it. I think
it sounds like you got yourself into the same situation as you were in as a practitioner, right?
But you know what? I never met an overnight success that wasn't like 10 years in the making.
That's right.
So it was the same thing. But to answer your question, that's kind of how it came to be.
I do think the same way. You have to make those mistakes. You have to experience it yourself, because you can use someone else's method, but you have to live it too. I mean, in your way of doing this, you had to figure it out yourself.
And that's why I just, really honor the people that have opened up practices. It's easy to think about opening up a practice.
Yeah.
It's hard to actually do it and rely, when I think of someone who's an entrepreneur, someone who's a business owner, and I do think entrepreneur is business owner. It doesn't mean you have to create the iPhone to be an entrepreneur.
Sure.
To me, it means your financial livelihood is relied on you.
Yeah.
To me, that's an entrepreneur. And when you do that, that takes some kahunas to do that.
Yeah.
Now, to build a real business that provides the lifestyle you want, just like anything else, it takes grit, it takes certain hard work, but also takes working in a different fashion than what you might be used to.
Sure.
And that takes a lot of courage as well to do, but it is possible.
So what are you doing? What are you doing differently now than you were, say, 5 years ago?
In this business?
Yep.
I'm applying the same principles that I applied in the physical therapy business.
Yeah.
So, some of the principles are, there's a great new book. People want to go out and get it. It's from one of my mentors, Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach. It's called Who Not How. Mm-hmm. And just like it sounds, you'll get the premise of the book in the first page. It was very powerful when I was learning this premise. It took me forever to implement it. But the premise is, focus on the things you do best. Focus on, Dan Sullivan calls it unique ability. Other people call it superpower or your special sauce. But it's the things that you naturally do best. It doesn't mean you can't learn and grow and become better skilled, but you just have a knack for it. It's focusing your time on doing that and then delegating the things that you don't particularly care for, you don't particularly like, and frankly, you're probably not that good at anyways. So when I started the coaching, what was I doing? I was doing all of it. I was doing the coaching. I was doing the billing. I was doing the schedule. I was doing the marketing. I did exactly what I did in the PT business. Yep. I was doing the treating. I was doing the documentation. I was answering the phones. I was doing my payroll. I was dealing with insurance companies. I was printing out claims at the time, stuffing them in the thing, reviewing the claim. I mean, getting on the phone when a claim was denied. You were doing it all. And, as brand new practice owners, we kind of do what we have to do.
Yeah. In defense of younger Jamey, I mean, you had to do those things.
To a certain point.
To a certain point, right.
Eventually, you have to make the decision of what is it that you want from this business.
Yeah. Like,
if you really want to grow it, then you can't continue to do that. If you're happy doing that, then that's cool. I'm like, hey, that's awesome.
Most business owners are not, right?
Most business owners want a business.
Yep.
They want to do it because they want to treat and deliver the type of care that they want. They want the potential revenue and profitability that comes in. They want to control their time and freedom, to have the lifestyle, to have the well-being, to have all that. And they want the opportunity to grow and create and serve people the way they want to. Yep. In order to do that, you got to have some really different things in place. So that's what I did in this business, because I'd be inauthentic if I was telling people about time and marketing and operations and people. And if I was just acting as just a solo person, it's like, well, Jamey, you're not doing it in this business.
You're practicing what you're preaching there, Jamey.
Exactly. You got to walk the talk, Daniel. You know that. I mean, there's too many people out there that are not.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between 5 years ago and now.
Yeah.
The 5 years.
So what do you do? So you've brought up time management a bunch of times already, and I think it's so relevant to any practice owner's life, and frankly, just about everybody, right? What sort of techniques do you use for time management? And do you utilize, like I personally utilize technology, shortcuts and scheduling and other things, reminders, and all a bunch of other technology little tips. But how about you?
Absolutely. So I like to start with a kind of a bigger perspective around time management.
Yep.
I don't really like time management. We call it time mastery.
Good.
Because
Good. Terrible term, time management.
Yeah, because time can't be managed. Time is time. I don't know about you. How many hours do you have in a day? I know I got 24.
I'm working on more.
Minus sleep. I know we're all trying to work on more, but the people that say, I wish there was 25 hours. No, you'd be busy doing 25 hours. You'd be busy doing 30 hours.
Sure.
So time management is really all about, how do you manage your schedule? How do you manage how you utilize your time? How do you manage what you choose to do and what you choose not to do? Mm-hmm. That's what we're really talking about there, if we kind of really take this broad view of time. So, you're in the Northeast. I'm on the Northeast, just outside of DC. And I know in New York, as in where I am, there's this badge of honor that people wear. And the badge of honor is, I'm busy.
Right.
Daniel, hey, are you busy? Yeah, man, I'm busy. What about you? I'm super busy. Oh, really? I didn't mean busy. I meant I'm super duper busy.
Yeah.
And it's just like this bragging thing to tell someone how freaking busy you are. And I never quite got that. You know, one of my favorite quotes, Henry David Thoreau said, "It's not enough to be busy. So too are the ants." The question is, what are you busy about? So when you start diving in deep, and I love diving in deep with people and getting beyond the superficial, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing pretty well. I'm busy. You start to equate, well, what is it that you want? What did you think your life would be like right now? What did you think your business would be like? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And once you get past the superficial ego, they'll tell you, you know, I thought I'd be making more money. I thought I wouldn't be working so many darn hours in the business. I thought I'd have more time for my family, friends, whatever the thing is, right? I thought I had more locations. And then you say, well, there's only a couple things that are going to determine that. One is how you think and make decisions. And two is what you actually take action on. So that will equal the results. So we talk about this idea around time. See, time is an interesting thing. Time is a construct, right? It's just a mental construct that we have. So if you look at it as, have you ever heard of Parkinson's law? Nothing to do with like Parkinson's and PT, but yeah, Parkinson's law.
Have not.
So Parkinson's law, and I bet you've heard of the concept though. So Parkinson's law basically states that time will expand to fill the space available. Okay. That's Jamey's version of Parkinson's law.
I'm with it, yeah.
Right? So basically, and I heard someone speaking the other day, and I like this analogy. Basically, time is elastic. You and I now have an hour on this podcast. We will spend an hour on the podcast. If you had a half hour, we do a half hour. If we had 4 hours, no doubt you and I could go 4 hours. You'll change what we talk about. We'll go deeper probably on some stuff. But what happens is whether you have 5 minutes to do something, 15 minutes or 2 hours, you will expand the time that you have to do it to fill the allotment. Sure. It doesn't mean it will be done better. It doesn't mean you will be more productive. It doesn't mean you will achieve the results. The biggest thing I hear, and I love getting into this conversation, is around this idea of one-on-one treatment. Because when I usually hear one-on-one treatment, it's usually like an hour long. This arbitrary hour. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure where the magic of the 1 hour treatment came from. Right. But what happens is, and I remember learning this years ago just by thinking around this, it's like, wait a minute. So I remember I was a new therapist. I was working at a hospital and we had hour treatments. And frankly, I sucked. I mean, the only thing I could do is stretch people. That's the only thing I knew how to really do comfortably. I didn't have any of the advanced skills. And I was working in a hospital, so stretching people was fine. And then, 5, 6, 7 years later, I got this certification. I can do manual this. I'm a manual god, right? Why? Because I spent a lot of money and a lot of time learning all of this stuff. And what was interesting is then I still had the same hour, right? So I still have the same hour and I'm getting paid the exact same amount of money, spending the exact same amount of time. Now, was I able to get the person better quicker? I'd like to think so. Can't tell you I really had any sound proof to it. Mm-hmm. I couldn't prove I was doing it. But what was interesting, and I started to realize when I opened my own practice and I started to have conversations around therapists, around some therapists that had this idea of more is better. So treating longer must be better than treating shorter. Then I said, then why are you taking all these courses? Because the idea of experience and wisdom and knowledge is be able to look at something and quickly figure it out in shorter periods of time, which means you can help people faster. Yep. So how does that benefit from seeing the person longer? And of course, every time I have this conversation with one of my staff at the time, they really didn't have an answer to that. I go, because you were taught this mental construct. You were taught this idea that more is better, longer must be better. If a half hour is this, then an hour is this. So that's kind of just an example of this time elasticity. We will expand to fill that time. We will certainly fill it. But the question is, are you doing the things that are getting the results that you want? Are you being productive? So that's where I like to begin with time management, because one of the, you talked about technology. If you show me, Daniel, your calendar, this is one of my favorite things. If you show me your calendar right now, your scheduler, I will tell you for a fact what you deem important to you.
Sure.
Right? Because we make time for the things that are important. If there's a emergency in your family, you will make time for it, no question. 5 minutes before that emergency, if I said, hey, do you have time to meet up? If you have time for this, you would say, no, I don't have time for anything. You would tell me you have zero time. It's impossible. I'm busy to the brim. But when something's important enough, you make it a priority.
Sure.
So what are we really talking about? Time management is really about choosing what a priority is and ensuring that becomes something that is on our calendar. So right now, if you're a younger clinician and maybe haven't removed yourself yet, then a priority is your patient care. How do I know? Because it's on your calendar. It's on your EMR scheduler. Maybe a kid's event is on your calendar. You're going to a soccer game. Maybe there's a barbecue. Maybe there's a wedding. Maybe there's a funeral, whatever it is. But is there time to review your key performance indicators, your metrics of your business to see how you're doing in the last week or month? Chances are there's not. Is there time specifically, consistently blocked out to do a particular marketing activity? Whatever that might be, reach out to people, network, maybe create and do something in social media or whatever. The answer is probably not. Is there time to, develop systems and look at where you can create streamline and efficiencies, whether with technology or something else? And the answer is probably not. So what happens is your time management strategy really becomes hope. And one of my favorite quotes of all times is, hope isn't a strategy. So whenever I hear, well, I hope to do that, I hope to that, just assume you're not.
Not going to do it.
So my simple technology, and I have some other strategies that could do that more concrete, but my simple technology, to your point, is one of the most powerful things that I started to use is my calendar, which is why I know I took 137 days off.
Yeah.
Because I started to track the free time I wanted in my schedule, because it was important to me. Prior to that, I didn't have any free time. Free time was always after the fact.
Sure.
If I just happened to have a half hour or a half a day on Sunday, okay, I had a half a day free time. But it was never done intentionally and in advance. When I put my free time on my calendar first, and I did it for the entire year. It didn't happen
137 days.
Yeah, well, it didn't happen exactly like that. Things come up.
Sure.
But it was a considerable amount of time. So how do you get to 137 days?
That's a great point. Yeah.
So how do I get to 137 days, Daniel? Well, think about it. I stopped working the freaking weekends, first of all.
Yeah.
You stop working weekends, there's 100 days right there.
100 days, yep.
So then I was like, you know what? I actually want to take a vacation. So I started blocking out a week vacation every quarter.
Yeah.
That's 4 weeks right there. That's another 20 days because we already did the weekends.
Yep.
So I'm already up to 120 something days.
Yep.
And then preferably, I don't like working on Fridays. I like to have free days. So I started adding in every other Friday as a free day. It didn't take long to achieve that. But here's the interesting part. Parkinson's law. Now I only had 4 days in the week to get the work I needed to get done.
Sure.
It caused me to rearrange and prioritize my schedule to do the things that were most important to get the results that we want. It wasn't rocket science. But when I did that, it's amazing. And that's one of the things that I recommend people do. Look at your schedule and start blocking out, start with free time. I don't care if it's just Sunday. It just has to be time where work is not there.
Yep.
Block it out on your calendar. Like,
that's tremendous.
Put the word busy there,
yeah,
Daniel. Put the word busy.
Yeah,
you cannot schedule something.
Not working, not scheduling. That it actually reminds me of George Carlin, the comedian.
Oh yeah,
he had a thing about your stuff, and regardless of the size of your home, you will fill it with stuff. You get a bigger house, you're going to fill it with more stuff, and the inverse of that is if you want to downsize, right? You'll figure it out. You get a smaller home. You'll get your stuff into, right? You'll get rid of stuff.
It's funny you mentioned that.
It's exactly the same idea, right?
Of course, you probably could YouTube it, but yeah, when he talks about his stuff, your job, you get a house. What do? You put stuff in it.
Right.
And then you get a bigger house for more stuff. And you finally like, you know what? I want a smaller house. You get rid of stuff. Your whole life is about stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. Yep. The same thing. You get a bigger house. I'll give you a quick story on, I'll make a little fun of my neighbor. So they're an interesting couple. They're not the cleanest people in the world. And they had a house in our neighborhood and, a nice house, not massive, but a nice house. And it had, can I curse? Because it's just me. It needs
to say whatever you want, Jamey.
It had shit everywhere.
Much shit.
It had shit everywhere. I mean, she liked to make her homemade wine. She'd like to make her homemade soap. He was into books and art. So not only was their house a mess anyways, that all their hobbies became a part. So there you walk in, there's artwork everywhere. There's wine, homemade wine things and homemade beer things and soap stuff everywhere. There's crap everywhere. One time I went to a party that they had. There were some red Solo cups. I went to go make myself a drink. I pour a drink. I go like that and I spit it out because there was dog hair in the cup. And I went, what the heck? And they're like, oh yeah, don't use those cups. Those are the cups the dogs play with. I go, it's on the kitchen counter.
At a party.
So that's kind of how their house is, right? It was filled to the brim. They move a couple miles down. They move to a 6,000+ square feet house. And my wife goes, Jamey, no way.
No way they can.
There's so much space in this house. No way. I said, Colleen, 6 months. I'm telling you, within 6 months, 6,000 feet of crap. I'm saying there is crap everywhere. Why? Bigger house, more stuff. How does this relate to time?
Carlin's law holds up.
Carlin's law. Forget Parkinson's law. George Carlin's law. So just having a mindset around this idea of what's important to you is on your calendar. Oh, yeah. We have access to calendars. I mean, my wife still likes the old school handwritten calendar, which is cool. I like to use Google Calendar. Yeah. I just put on there what I am going to do. And I know if it's not on my calendar, I know it's not something a high priority of mine. Because if it's a high priority, and I mean, if I'm going to exercise, it's on my calendar because that's a high priority. Yep. And if I don't put it on there, that's the first thing that goes is our own well-being. We stop exercise. I never met an overwhelmed person that's working 1 million hours. First thing I say, so how are you taking care of yourself? Oh, I haven't worked out in weeks. You're hurting the person that's in charge of making very important decisions about a lot of people. And you are not helping you. You're not re-energizing, rejuvenating you to make sure you're mentally sharp.
Absolutely.
Not good business.
Yep.
So that's the number one, technology thing is using that Google Calendar. Can I share another exercise with you?
Let's do it.
This is a life exercise. So a long time I learned from this. I don't even know where I learned this from, but I thought it was pretty cool. And I've been doing it and I teach it to other people. So I won't take credit for inventing it, but again, nothing's really new under the sun. It's all been done before. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a piece of paper, and this is for the people that are listening. Yep. And I want you to put 2 lines down the paper so it equals 3 columns. And in the first column, I want you to write the words have to. Second column, the middle column, I want you to write the words should do. And the third column, I want you to write the words like to. So have to, should do, like to. Now, I want you to look at your week. Let's just take the week. And again, this isn't just business. It's just your life.
Yep.
And I want you to write down all of the things you have to do. Like really have to do. So as a business owner, you got to pay taxes. I mean, you can choose not to and roll the dice, but you have to.
Sure.
You have to pay taxes. So that would be like, you have to do that. All right. So what other have-tos do you have in your life? We'll just use you as an example.
Well, pay bills is an obvious one, right?
You have to pay bills.
Yeah.
Again, you can choose not to and suffer the consequences, but you have to pay bills. What else would you have to do?
Get dressed every morning. You want me to be more...
But you get to decide that. These are just activities and tasks that you do in a given week. So sure, you could say...
Have to is make dinner for the family twice a week.
Okay, that could be a have to. Could be. All right. We don't know yet. That could
to
be.
me, I feel it's a have to.
Okay. So it's whatever your have tos are.
Yeah. Okay.
So the next column is should dos.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. What are your should dos in the week?
Of course. Exercise is the perfect should do, right?
It all depends.
Well, I mean, I think in most people's lives, exercise is a should do.
Okay. If it's a should do, then you put it in there.
Yeah.
So, a should do could be, I know for me, I really should mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Right. We have a house, we have a yard. I really should mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Right. I should, I should really grill out more. I should be able to grill. I should be able to, I don't know.
I like the idea of the other should do is take days off.
Yeah.
Which I think for most people should.
So you put all your should do's.
Yeah.
Things that you don't have to do.
Yep.
But things that you feel you should do. And then the third column is like to do, things that you actually like. This is usually where exercise or maybe yoga, meditation, hanging out with friends, playing golf.
Yep.
You like to do these, maybe reading books. These things you like to do. The like to do's energize you. So if you don't like to exercise, then that might be a should exercise, but you don't like it. It doesn't really energize you. So that's what I said. It could go in either category. For me, I like to exercise. I like to play golf. I like to play basketball with my friends. I like to hang out at neighbors and social events. So if you do this exercise and start listing all of these activities and tasks you have in a given week, you're going to notice something interesting with the pattern. What do you think the largest column is going to be?
At the onset or
when you put all your activities, all the to-dos that you have, how many to-dos?
Well, I think Go
ahead.
I actually don't know. At first I was going to say the have to, right? I know. And then I thought about it and I think that it's probably the like to.
Well,
you're going to say something different.
It's the should do's.
Yeah. The
should do will clearly be so much bigger than the rest.
Got it. I get what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah.
The have tos will be the have tos, moderate. The like tos, things that you like to do. And when I say things that you like to do, I'm talking about things that you're doing.
Yep. I get it.
Like you have to do these things. You like to do, you're doing these things. Now think about it, how it works. If most of us are busy, and most of us, especially people that are listening to this, that are business owners, and then husbands and wives and fathers and mothers and all these other roles that we play, the first person that you are going to sacrifice is yourself.
Yeah.
So the things that you like to do, the things that you enjoy doing are going to get nicked. So your like to do's are only going to be a couple things in a week that you truly like to do, that you enjoy doing, that you're doing.
Yep.
The things that are going to cause stress, and this is where kind of this research comes in, the things that cause stress in our life are the things that we feel we should do. Yep. And the word should is an interesting thing.
It's so good. Guilt. It's so good because, I mean, when I think about it now, my to-do list should be called my should-do list Because
now we're talking.
That's what it is. That's
right. Every
the one that with things that have been on there for a month or more.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
every religion, not to go religious here, but every religion has one thing in common. It all has its guilt part of it. Right. So I'm Jewish, the Jewish guilt. You have the Italian guilt. You have the Greek guilt. Like every religion always has this component of guilt. The guilt is the should do's. The guilt is when your mom or your aunt or your grandmother says, Jamey, you really should do this.
Yeah.
And you sit and you're like, oh, okay, fine. Do you want to? No. Do you like to do it? No. Do you have to do it? No. But it's this guilt of should.
Yeah.
And when your week is made up, and the same thing happens in the business, when your week is made up of all these things you should do, it kills your energy. It kills your flow. Your have to's, you have to pay bills. You're not going to get too emotional around it. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
So you'll figure out the time.
Already. Yeah.
You'll sit down and do it.
Yep.
The should do's, a killer. And then you have a little teeny like to do, things that actually bring you joy, bring you like, oh my God, I finally have a chance to just sit and chill for a minute. Like it's 10 minutes over here. Like there's not a ton of time. So that's kind of my life strategy of just looking at your life and the things that you do. So then the goal is simple. The goal is how can you reduce your should do's and increase your like to do's?
Yep.
So you increase the things you enjoy in life. You make time for those things. You put those things on your calendar and you make sure you're doing those things on a regular basis. And the should do's, to be totally honest, you delegate them. I paid for someone to do my lawn.
Yep.
Could I do it? Sure. Have I done in the past? Am I too good for it? No. Do I enjoy doing it? Do I get like the satisfaction? No. So you know what? I don't do it. And I don't think twice about it. You know, some people are like, well, you know what, Jamey, I don't like to really cook that much. Okay, then it used to be you could hire a part-time chef to cook for you, or you can have, all these now services and all that kind of stuff. There's so much out there now. You can get anything you want. But the key is when you start reducing that should do, you're reducing your stress and anxiety. And when you start doing that, you start thinking and acting and operating at a better level. So how do we do this in our business? So in the business, we're going to be more specific. In the business, the strategy is called chunking. You ever heard of that? Chunking?
Absolutely.
Okay. Again, I made it up. I trademarked it. It's mine. You can't use it without my permission because the word chunking is such a very right. So look, chunking really is simple. Our brains are really good when we focus on a similar thing.
Yep.
So I know when I was treating patients, the way I worked is I did some notes during, easy progress notes, like it's day-to-day notes. I can get them done pretty quickly. But new patients, I couldn't treat the patient and then do this new patient. I'm a slow writer. I wasn't very good. I type, I hunt and peck. So what I did is I would block out time to do all my evaluations of the day. So there might have been 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did it like that, I could knock them all out in 45 minutes.
Sure.
When I spread them out with little pockets of 5-10 minutes here and there, it took so much longer to get it done. And there was more issues, mistakes. I wasn't really into it. Why is that? It's because when our brain is around a similar themed activity, we get into a flow. And when we get into a flow, we become more efficient in that particular thing. I don't care who says how great at multitasking they are. And I know that there are some people out there, especially women, mothers who are juggling. And yes, you can juggle a million things, but that's not the same as multitasking because there really is no such thing. Your brain can only focus on one thing at a time, right? We know that. There's research that supports that.
Sure.
What multitasking really is focusing on one thing at a time very quickly. There's just something called residue. When our brain is focused on something, we leave that something and focus on something else. There's this lag that happens in our brain. We're still on this other activity, even though we moved on to something else. We're not 100% there. I don't know what the exact time, but it's like 15, 20 minutes to fully be present on this new thing.
Fully engaged, yep.
So with that said is we want to take our schedule and try to compact things that are similar. So one of the things that I do to help people that are inpatient care, 30, 35, 40 hours a week that are like, Jamey, I really don't have time to do a lot of these things because I'm treating and documenting 40 something hours a week. I said, chunk your time. Because most likely you took this 5-day-a-week model and you expanded your hours to fill the time to get as many people as you can on your schedule. And unless you're 100% busy, you probably have gaps in your schedule. So instead of doing that, perhaps cut out a half day. Now remember, Parkinson's law, or we'll call it George Carlin's law, works both ways. Sure. If you only have 4.5 days, or let's say I even like doing a full day off, so plus the weekend, so you only have 4 days, patients will change their schedule to fit yours to get the care they want.
Yep.
Right? Instead of you bending over backwards and meeting their schedule for everything,
60 hours a week,
they're going to modify their schedule. So here's what happens. And I've done this, I can't tell you how many times, like literally hundreds of times with clients. What happens is a couple of things. One, the thought is they're going to lose people. And what happens is they don't, right? Some people might get transferred to someone else. They have to come on a particular time. Some people get discharged because you were keeping them long anyways, and they were just coming in for the hell of it. But what happens is you become more efficient. So net, it's better. Now, you're also more efficient in how you're operating. So your flow is better. Yes, you might be working 8, 9, 10 hours a day, but give me 10 hours a day rocking and rolling better than 3 days working 3.5 hours, never getting into a flow, never getting into a rhythm, right? So that's one thing. But here's the magic, Daniel, what happens? You now have an entire day that's not patient care.
Sure.
What can you focus on? The world is your oyster. You can focus on creating better operations and systems. You can focus on looking at how to support and mentor your staff. You can focus on marketing. The greatest day of the week for me when I did this exercise, I remember clearly, was Thursday night. I got home, I worked a late night, 8 o'clock. But you know what? I didn't have one darn thing on my calendar for Friday. Not one. I woke up later, I worked out, took a walk around the neighborhood with my wife, then looked at what I wanted to focus on to that day, a particular thing. There was no stress. My thinking and clarity was at an all-time high, which then caused me to make better decisions that turned into more profitable, more efficient, more supportive of my team. So our initial reaction is, well, no, I'll lose money because time equals money. And the reality is, no, you're going to become more efficient and you're going to work smarter.
Sure.
So that's one of the things that I recommend that people do is if you're doing a lot of patient care and you want to reduce that, find some hours, chunk your time. If you feel so uncomfortable, chunk a half a day.
Yeah.
Just cut out a half day in your calendar. You decide when, go to the front desk and you say, starting this date, block out this time, put people somewhere else.
That's great.
One thing you can
do. Just to throw a monkey wrench into all that, Jamey.
Please.
And I think I fully agree with what you're saying. And I really, particularly the part about flow but we live in a world now with so many distractions, right? So where does that factor in? And look, you seem like a very disciplined, structured, organized person. Not everybody is. So like how do you account?
I'm glad you said
how do you account for that?
I'm glad you say how disciplined and organized I am. I'm actually not. You know, I think all of us are disciplined.
Right.
But here's what we're disciplined to. We're disciplined to our existing set of habits.
Sure.
It's a habit we're talking about. Was I always like this? No. I'm in the flow. I kind of do everything. I jump around and all that.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. I still get sucked in from my stupid iPhone. I still go on Facebook and then I say, okay, you're wasting freaking time. So we're not talking about all or none, first of all. We're talking about taking a step and embracing a calendar, taking a step, blocking out some free time for the next month and see if you can do it. See if you can truly take a day off and see what's getting in the way of doing that.
Yeah.
So to your point, yes, we live in a squirrel society, right? We're talking, all of a sudden squirrel comes along. Look, social media, as great as it is, as great as it can be, it's a time suck.
Totally.
So the first thing, you really want to identify is where is your time going? And this is where the calendar comes in too. Most people don't even realize they might be spending who knows how many hours on their phone looking at social media.
Sure.
Looking at stuff, worrying about stuff. So the most successful people out there, and I'm not saying it's easy. I'll never tell you this is easy, what I'm telling you about.
Yeah.
I will tell you it's simple, meaning it's very straightforward in what you have to do. The difference between the people that are successful versus the people that aren't, which is what we're talking about, is what they're doing with their time. I don't think the most successful people in the world are sitting on social media all day.
You don't think so?
I just don't think so. Now, I know my son is sitting there nonstop, and I'm like, you're sitting on your phone. It's doing nothing for you. You didn't exercise. You didn't practice lacrosse. You're not filling out your application for college. I'm just watching it in real time, wasting time.
Your point is great, though. I mean, that do it in small doses. Basically, take a day, schedule it out.
Take a half a day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What I wouldn't suggest is finding an hour. Don't find an hour. That's not enough flow.
It's not going to do it.
Do half-day blocks.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did is I said, I'm only going to treat, and I was treating, 5 days a week, sometimes Saturday, but mostly 5 days a week. The first thing that I did, I said, what's my favorite day of the week? Friday. Okay.
Nice. I
stopped treating at 12 o'clock on Friday. What happened? My other days just got a little busier.
Yep.
My schedule, actually, what's interesting, my schedule got busier because more people were around, which created more energy, more discussions with each other.
Yep.
Like it just had a better feel and a better culture. And I knew that I could be home by 1, do some quick notes, out the door. Now I feel like I have a 3-day weekend. That energized me.
Yeah.
So it's just taking small bites.
Yep.
Small steps in doing this, but chunking time, it can be anything. You can chunk time looking at metrics. Like knowing your data is an important thing.
Sure.
Block out time. Don't look at it here and there. Block out time. Same thing when you're marketing. Don't try to fit marketing between lunchtime and you go out quickly to see a doctor, then you're coming back to see a patient. Block out a half a day on your schedule.
You got to schedule that for sure.
But Daniel, people don't.
Yeah.
People don't. And then they're concerned because they're not getting enough referrals and new patients.
Yeah.
I never agree with people when they say, I need more new patients, give me more strategies. And I'm like, it's not a strategy. It's a time management issue.
Sure.
You know what it takes to get patients. You already have them.
Yeah.
What you don't have is a disciplined way to focus time around this one topic without being distracted by 100 different things. I think the worst place you could be when you want to really look at your business and innovate and look at how to build and grow and think is in your office. And if you're in a home office, get out of the home. I do my worst thinking inside my home or inside my practice when I had it. Get out, take a walk.
That's great.
That's when your ideas come.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So let's think a little differently now. And I don't know how much thought you put into this, but I'd like your take. I'd really like to know what you expect to see. You've been in a lot of outpatient PT practices, private practices, and things have changed over the past few years. And obviously, this past year was a sea change sort of experience. What do you expect the private PT practice to look like in 5 years or 10 years from now?
That's an
interesting question. Changes?
It's an interesting question. Well, the answer is always everything's changing.
Yeah. PT changes slow though, doesn't it?
Well, sometimes we're not. You see, one of the things that have to improve, I call it upgrading. It's like an iOS, right? I think they're on 14.5 iOS. Can you imagine if we were still operating on like third generation iOS?
Like some PT practices are still operating on 1990s or 1980s.
You know why? Because basically, we haven't, as a collective group, we haven't evolved our thinking.
That's right.
Remember, thinking, how you think about something, your perception around it, your lens, that determines decision-making and action.
Absolutely.
So it isn't strategies and tactics, technology, those are all important tools. But those tools is like a hammer. A hammer is a tool, but you get someone that doesn't understand a hammer, you know what they do? Take that damn thing and bash the wall in. Or that same hammer with someone that understands how to use it can build a house. Same tool, different perspective of how to use it. So I think that, first of all, the world is forever changed. There are, just like post 9/11, just like post 2000 or 1917 and the Spanish flu and all that, there are going to be extraordinary opportunities that are coming out right now. They will be the next billionaires that come out. But even for us, there are extraordinary opportunities. You're smiling because you're doing one right now that are happening. Fortunes will be made. There is unbelievable opportunity right now, but it's only going to be for the people that have upgraded or choose to upgrade their thinking, how they think about this. And you can't upgrade your thinking when you're in your business doing it and doing it and doing it every single day. Now, again, if that's what you want to do, perfect. You got a self-employed business, no problem. Or you want to be an employee and work for someone, awesome, if that fulfills you. But for people that are business owners that truly want a business, you have to upgrade yourself to think like a business owner, to think like a leader, to problem solve, to communicate in that way. That is never, ever going to change because we're human beings and that's how we operate. So what I'm trying to do at Practice Freedom U is help people upgrade how they think and how they build and create a business, because we will impact our society, impact our community at a greater clip. And that will change our industry. What do I think is going to happen? I think for what like you're doing, I think this whole world of technology that physical therapy has been very, very slow to embrace, I think that will start to speed up. That could be a little dangerous because again, if you don't know how to use the hammer, you could use it in a way that's not going to serve you well. So, but I do believe technology is going to come in. I do believe there is going to be some significant disruption in our business. I think people that don't have multiple streams and multiple levels in their business are going to have some trouble. I think, things like this cash bait model, this boutique model, I think has to be incorporated for at the very least to offset declining reimbursements, which will continue to happen. And again, we can't change that. And we can fight a rule here. We can delay Medicare 2%, 9% cuts. We can do that, which is fine. The APTA can handle that. But what are we going to do as small business owners to offset that? We have to run a more efficient business, right? Like when I started getting into business, same time you did, like in late 90s, or mid 90s, I was graduating. Reimbursements were higher. You can run an inefficient business and still make money. That's going to be less and less. You have to run efficiency. And what I've seen in the business model, what I've seen is there is plenty of opportunity, plenty of revenue that can be made, plenty of people that can be helped. You just have to do it in a much more strategic way, much more efficient way, which means you can't mess around anymore. Some of the people that aren't the small little self-employed, they'll always be here. But the mid-tier people are going to get killed. Because the bigger people are going to be able to capture some of the marketplace. The small mom and pop one horse people that are just, side hustle.
They'll do their thing.
They're always going to do their thing. That's fine. But it's the people that have a few locations up to a handful of locations.
Yeah.
It doesn't have efficiency in place. They're still in their business, dealing with the fires day in, day out.
Sure.
They're not stepping out of their practice, looking at the future. Like the pandemic, nobody in the world could predict it. But it was interesting. I've talked to so many practices that were actually minimally affected by it. And it was the ones that had a very, first of all, they weren't in the business so much. So when it happened, they were able to pivot quickly.
Yep.
They were able to make decisions. They were able to plan around it and look at other things and deal with their staff and deal with maybe how to generate revenue, telehealth. So they pivoted. So it was minimal damage. Now those same people are coming out of this. What I'm hearing right now in my circles, my groups, they are blowing away numbers they had even before the pandemic, because they worked during the pandemic, bettering their business model, bettering their systems, positioning their business to not only handle what's in front of us, to withstand if anything like this happened again. So that's the type of thinking. And we're not getting that education in school. We're not getting that education, in many places. So anyways, that's kind of my answer, what I see.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, the other component is that there's other, besides larger groups and other competition, there's other invaders coming into the musculoskeletal space outside of the PT world.
The disruption that will happen will come from the blind side for people that don't wear glasses. Yeah. So what I mean by that is you and I could probably talk about disruptors that will come in and negatively affect our place that other people wouldn't even think is a disruptor, because we still think that the PT place down the street is the problem. The ATI is the problem. The chiropractor is the problem. They're not your competition. Your competition is going to smack you in the back of the head. Yeah. And your competition, in part, is going to be technology. It's going to be an app. Look at what these places are doing. Look at what
You nailed it.
The iPhone do.
Yep.
I mean, look at what's happening. I mean, look. Nobody, I'll just say this one thing. Nobody that I know ever rode a darn stationary bike. Nobody, except your weird bike riders. And then what happens? All of a sudden you have enough technology to be like, you can actually pretend like you're riding in different mountains. You can do all this stuff like the game of the
someone will guide you through it too.
And somebody
will motivate you. You'll be in a room with other
somebody
people
that doesn't look ugly will guide you through and bring it, and you'll be able to collaborate with other people. So you have the social network. And now, what do you think Peloton is doing right now? They're not just selling bikes. They're selling thousands of them. But here's what they're really doing. They created an entire new revenue model of memberships, small membership fee to thousands and tens of thousands of people. I get people that are talking about Pelotons. I'm like, are you kidding? You would never have done that. So, look at what that is doing to personal training industry, the fitness industry. So think about what we do. I'm not talking to people that still think you're only hands-on. Like, there'll be certain hands-on, but what if our industry was disrupted just 10%? 10%. Imagine how many people that is if, let's say, there is, I don't know what the latest facts are, but 8, 9, 10 million people that get physical therapy or something like that. Maybe it's 9, maybe it's 8. I think it's 8 or 9%. So, whatever that is, 30 million people that are getting physical therapy. 10% stop getting PT, but they're not going to your neighbor down the street. There's an app that takes them through a program that helps them with some of their maybe most basic problems. Yep. But a lot of people have those basic type of injuries. That's what I love. When you and I first talked, that's what I love about what you're doing. I go, you're creating the infrastructure and the model to shift our mindset that we are more than just our hands. We're this. That's right. And even if you can help only a small segment of the population, think about the efficiency and the advantages you have. Because by the way, they will figure out this whole licensing thing in different states. You now have 300 million people, not just whoever's in your 3 to 5 mile radius. So thinking like this and positioning your business to prepare for what's next, this is the duty of every practice owner that wants to be a truly business owner. And that's where you have to focus.
Yeah. Great answer, by the way.
The truth, man.
You may not have thought about it before, but you definitely put a lot of things together. That was great. As you said before, I think we probably could talk for 4 hours. We're not going to do that tonight, but we'll definitely do this again. How can people get in touch with you, Jamey?
Yeah. So you mentioned my book. If you go on my website, practicefreedomu.com, you can get my book right in there. We have a free downloadable copy. It's a full version. It's just a downloadable copy. If you're interested in learning more about, well, how can you start building your business? How can you start positioning yourself as a true business owner and leader? I'm happy to speak with you. We call it a discovery call. There's no high pressure sales. I don't work like that. We're looking at what you truly want and putting a plan in place to help you get there. If you want to do that, you can reach out to me. Again, it's practicefreedomu.com/discovery call. I imagine you'll have it in your show notes.
Yeah, in the show notes.
Yep. So just reach out. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, these conversations are very enlightening of where some of your areas that you need to address in your business and fix to grow. So happy to speak with you or download the book. I think you'll find it very entertaining and fun to read.
Awesome. And what I take from this conversation is that what you do is business coaching, but it's also life coaching. It's really about helping a leader become a better leader, helping them get better at managing their life in a way.
It's business coaching and training. It's teaching you how to go from being self-employed to actually a business owner where your business can run day in and day out without you in there doing it all. That's what we help you do. And with doing that, it helps change your life. Because if you have more money and you have more time to enjoy it, more flexibility and freedom, and you're happy with what's going on, yes, your life actually improves. But we utilize your business to make that happen because your business is the greatest asset you have. We just have to make sure it creates and develops into an asset.
Yep. Awesome. Great having you on.
Daniel, thank you so much. This was fun.
Right,
appreciate your questions. Great stuff, man.
Cool. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. That was a lot of fun. Jamey was great. You can find Jamey online. He's on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Jamey Schrier, and also Practice Freedom U. That's the letter U. You'll find that practicefreedomu.com also on your social media. And also, please check us out, the TelePT Connections podcast. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast. Remember to leave your comments, please. We really appreciate your comments. And we'll see you next week.
We hope you learned some things to help you connect with your musculoskeletal system and more. Find us on Twitter at @DSeidler, that's DSEIDLER, and at Adrian MPT, ADRIAN MPT, and on LinkedIn, Daniel Seidler and Adrian Miranda. We'll connect with you again next time.